Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be talking to Katarina about plant questions for beginners.
I was wondering, how do I pick up a plant?
What do you mean by that?
How do I pick it up carefully and not damage it?
Oh, so most plants don't really care about how you pick them up.
Okay.
And these are aeroids, so they're pretty tough. You don't want to damage the young leaves, but they're pretty tough. So we handle them pretty roughly
Okay.
when we're dealing with them in production, with the exception of things that maybe have soft leaves to them that you don't want to damage. But for the most part, you don't really think about it.
What does it take to be a good plant parent?
Attention,
Attention.
period. Your plants are like your dog, or your cat, or your rabbit, or even your hamster. Every day, you need to see how they're doing.
Okay.
And so in a growing situation in a home, you would simply visit them at least once a day and just look and see how they're doing.
How do I check my plant's roots?
That is quite simple. You've got most everything is in a container. And that's a good thing, because if you had to check your roots or something in the ground, you probably can't do it because you have to dig it up. So we simply take the plant like this, put my fingers under the top of the pot, and I find something I can tap it on, and then I pull it out of the pot and I look at it. And as you can see, this is a well-established root system, and it's all nice and white, and there's even little glowing tips right there with the new roots going. And so that's a happy camper. And when you're done, put it back in the pot and you're done. The top of the plant is a mirror of the root system, and the root system is a mirror of the top of the plant. So when you got something going wrong with your plant, you want to always make sure your roots are healthy. That eliminates problems in the soil. And then you go to the condition of where it's growing.
Okay. So when I get a plant, do I keep it in the plastic pot it's in?
So plants generally are moved up and bumped up in size, potted, repotted. But if you wanted to keep this in this little tiny pot for a very long time, you could do that.
Oh.
And restricting the size of the container will actually restrict the size of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a limitation on how much that plant can grow in terms of the amount of water it gets, the amount of fertilizer it gets. But if you do decide to repot them, the general idea is to move them up somewhat slowly inside of the size of the container. So what we do is, this is like what we call a 4-inch pot. It's actually 3.5 inches across. We probably move that up into a 6-inch.
Okay.
All right. And what we're doing is we're gradually moving the size of the plant up into the pot so that it has time to acclimate to the soil, and the soil acclimates to the old soil. There's a sort of capillary action that happens.
Mm.
So if you overpot, right, you say, I want that plant to grow really big, and you put it in a great big pot like this and you stick it in, that can work, but it also can be a problem. You may stick that into that big pot. It's going to be surrounded by wet soil, and diseases can get going, particularly if it's susceptible to root rots. It's always good when you get a plant to kind of look up the general care of it, and always ask the question, are there problems with root disease in this as a container plant? And, it's not something that we really think about, but it'll kill a lot of plants if they have that susceptibility. And a good example of that would be like citrus plants. Because they do have in the wintertime quite a bit of susceptibility to diseases. And so in that case, we go into a clay pot. The thing about clay pots are they breathe, right? They let moisture out of the one over there. They let moisture out of the side of them, and the dry down is much quicker. And that dry down brings air into the soil, which inhibits the root disease.
Will all plants like clay pots?
Yes, as long as you're attentive to your watering. Don't remember that you're going to have to water them more frequently, and that visit every day needs to be every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I decide to repot my plant, can I just use soil from outside?
No. The worst thing you can do is go get loam and pot your plant up into it. Yeah.
What's loam?
Loam is the topsoil that you find in your garden or out in your lawn or whatever.
Oh.
So you don't want to use topsoil as container. as a media for container growing. There were times, and there still are times, I know some nurseries, not here, but in Hawaii, that actually use that. It's very heavy. Most of it is very dense. It contains diseases, or can contain diseases. It can get nematodes in it. It's like really bad. It packs. So these soilless mixes that we use, and there's many of them on the market, have a lot of porosity to them. Even though this media is very wet, there's perlite in there. And when this dries out, air is going to move down into it. And we spoke about the need for air in the root system. Loam generally doesn't do that. It packs very tight.
Does talking to your plant actually help it grow?
In science as we know it today, no. But there may come a time, as the human evolves in its consciousness, that it will find and connect with the consciousness of the plant.
Oh.
I talk to all kinds of things that are alive,
Mm-hmm.
and it never hurts. And you're expressing yourself when you talk to it. And perhaps in the future, you'll understand our connection to plants much deeper, and we do that.
Do you think plants like music?
Yes. Yes, that's actually, there's actually been some studies done on that in terms of electrical activity in the plant, how the plant responds.
So I've learned a lot about my plant and its roots, and now I'm wondering, how do I repot it properly?
Okay. Repotting is very simple. You need to get the bigger pot. So we were looking at this, 3.5, that's probably a 6 or a 5. And so we're going to increase the we're going to increase the soil mass for the roots to expand into. If we are using a clay pot, could be plastic. And really for this plant, if you're growing that in a house, you'd probably be better off with plastic, so you don't have to water it so often. And then when we repot, we simply tap it out, much like when we were looking at the root system. There we go. Roots are pretty good. And so what we do is we take our potting mix, and this is what we call a soilless or peat-light mix. And we're going to put some in the bottom. And we want to put enough in the bottom so that this pot doesn't stick out, but that it's near the top. And there's a root that's actually, we're going to stick that root back down in. And then we take the soil mix and we put it around the side of the pot. This mix is very dry, so we've got to continue to burn it thoroughly. And now you can see it's filled right up to the top. Now we're going to tamp it down so it secures it. You don't want to pack it really hard, but this is settling the soil. And now we have about maybe 1/2 inch of what's called freeboard. That's the open area from the top of the soil to the top of the pot for the water to sit into. And then when we get that to that point, then we give it a drink. And one thing you want to make sure you do when you're watering new soil like this is you're really thoroughly saturated. So, if you only give it like 1 shot of water, and there's so much dry soil in there, it's only going to water down halfway or a quarter of the way. And initially, when you're trying to get a plant established, you want to really get the whole core of soil moistened or wettened before you move on.
So when I bring my plant home, every time I water it, do I have to measure out the water?
No. So what we're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to put it in this growing area. Hopefully it's on a windowsill somewhere or under lights. And then you're going to watch the surface of that soil, and it's going to change color from this darker color to this lighter color. And that means that there's a drying going on. And generally the best thing to do is to manage your plant watering by the color of the soil. There are plants that can take it drier. This is one thing. So you can go beyond that.
Okay.
And there are other plants that need it constantly moist. Great examples like a prayer plant. That's what the Calatheas in the Calathea family. If you dry them out, they will go into a wilt and shrivel. But like most plants, you give them a drink and they come back, they don't come back. It takes them a long time to recover. That's a plant that we keep evenly moist. You don't want to go into that dry period.
Okay.
But you still could water it by eye. Look at soil. Soil's turning color, changing color from that dark wet to the light, and then give it a drink. When you give a plant a drink, thoroughly saturate. You want a little bit of water to come out of the bottom of the pot. I overwatered this just because it was new soil, but you just got to remember thoroughly saturate it.
Okay. And can you use tap water when you're watering your plants?
For the most part, that's okay. There are problems with some tap water, and that's contamination. And the contamination isn't like, complex organics and stuff like that. It would be more like sodium, chlorine,
Okay.
those kind of things. So plants that are sensitive to those compounds, or if you have high levels of it in your water, it's probably a better idea not to use tap water. However, most of those compounds that you find in tap water are water soluble, meaning they'll move through the substrate.
Okay.
So that's why good watering is always a good idea.
Okay. So I had a friend tell me that when you should water your plant when the top half inch of soil is dry. Is that true?
It depends upon the plant. So you could actually have plants like the calathea that needs more moisture than that.
Okay.
And so now you're waiting and waiting for that half inch of soil to get dry. Don't forget, this soil here hasn't connected. There's a point where this soil and the soil that was in this plant are going to connect, and there's going to be capillary action. So water goes into it and it spreads out.
Okay.
All right. And it doesn't take very long for that to happen. But between here and there, if you were waiting for that soil to dry, this thing will be all shriveled up. Yeah. So generally what we do is, yes, you can stick your finger in. If you scratch the surface and it's dry, give it a drink, but not a half an inch down. Just if it dries, if you're touching that and it's dry, give it a drink.
Okay.
Yeah, the half inch theory is probably good for plants that can handle dryness and that are susceptible to root disease, but we don't water that many greenhouses.
So if my plant shelf is right up against a heater, is that bad for my plants?
It can be, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so heaters in the wintertime, in the depth of winter, they're obviously warm and so on, but they also have very low humidity. That air is really, really dry. It's best to keep them away from that, or if you do have a heater, the old heaters always you put under windows. You want to keep a pebble tray with moisture in it,
What's a pebble tray?
So it's just a tray, contains water, and you put some pebbles to raise the plant up off of it. And then it's like a little pond that you keep filled with water to let the humidity rise up.
Okay, so I hear a lot about different sun levels. What does full to partial sun really mean?
So full sun is a south exposure in which the plant gets sun all day long.
Okay.
From morning till dark, right? And in the window, that may not be quite as long as that, but it's full sun coming in. Partial sun is something where there is some sunlight that comes in. Usually it's not in the middle of the day. That's your strongest light. And that usually we consider that like an east to west window. And when we speak about that, that's right in the window. That's not like 3 feet away from it. Because now you're getting into pretty deep shade. And then shade, of course, is that which doesn't get direct sunlight.
So when somebody says indirect light, does that mean shade?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, indirect light. And the thing is that our eyes sense light different than plant does. So we're in a room, and it's a sunny day, and it's outside, the windows are, and we can see everything. But if you put that plant in the middle of the room, it's not going to receive very much light, even though our eyes are picking it up. The plant won't be able to receive it.
Okay. So I hear about fertilizer sometimes. How do I know my plant needs fertilizer, and do all plants need fertilizer?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay.
And the second answer to that is it varies.
Okay.
So the rule of thumb is the higher the light, the more feed.
Oh.
And you need to really pay attention to that because you can feed, they'll use twice as much feed in a sunny window as they will in an indirect light. Okay? And you can actually, if you try growing in a plant and under different light levels, you can actually see the difference. If you gave them the same amount of fertilizer, you could actually see the difference. So the best thing to do, remember, the plant is in a container. That's the only way it's going to get something to eat is if we give it to it, right? It's not going to happen because some glitter fell down or some, bug crawled around there and died or whatever, or there's a is actually a natural nitrogen cycle that happens outside in our soils every year. It's not going to happen. It's in the pot. You've got to give it to it. Just like the water you give, you got to give it fertilizer.
Okay.
Now, the problem is you don't want to overfeed and you don't want to underfeed. And that gets to be kind of complicated. So if you're using salt fertilizers, those are the ones that you put in water and you dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
And, usually having blue dye in it so it changes color. Those are very strong fertilizers. Nothing wrong with them, but they're very strong fertilizers. And so you kind of need to be cautious on how much you put in. And it's a lot less than you might think. And I, as a young person growing up here in greenhouses, did some fertilizing without knowing what I had to do. And I had my first lesson, which was kind of a disaster.
Uh-oh.
And my dad came by and said, "Oh my God, they're going to die." And he was correct.
Oh no.
So, you just got to remember that those salt fertilizers are very strong and you need to, go easy on them. Other thing that we use is organic fertilizers. And that's become very popular in recent years. And those fertilizers have more buffer to them and are gentler on those plants. However, they have to be used properly because most of them come from some animal byproduct, whatever it is. And so to use them in a home, you need to mix them into the top of the soil kind of thing. But they don't burn. Right? They're not going to cause that damage if you overdo it. This is an example of a salt fertilizer, synthetic fertilizer. This is a formula called Grow, which is really good for flowering plants and for growing plants, but also for flowering plants. This particular fertilizer is interesting. It was created by a fellow that got into plant nutrition, started a business called Dynagrow. And if you read the back of this is pretty much got everything you need to grow a plant, like without anything. And remember, there's this thing called hydroponics, which is basically substrate neutral, flushing it with fertilizing water. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing here is really hydroponics in a kind of a general sense, because even though this mix, which is perlite and peat moss, can have some limestone added to it, it's pretty neutral. And so in order to get that plant to thrive, we need to add fertilizer to it. Remember we talked about the loam, digging the loam out of the back. Well, if we did that, there's probably something in there other than just what's in here. Yeah. So we need to add that to it. And this is a really good fertilizer. It's a liquid, so it's a little easier. And they've got these directions on the back about hydroponic production and, if you grow it using this as a house plant, how much to put in for like constant feeding or frequent feeding. So yeah, it's got everything you need.
So how long will my plant live even if I take perfect care of it every day?
Probably longer than you know.
Really? That's pretty cool.
So we have plants here in the greenhouses that are over 100 years old. And I haven't made it to 100 yet. Yeah. And I can actually see plants in the greenhouses here that I knew as a little boy. Aww. And are still going. Yeah. But, that being said, there are plants that have a life cycle that's much shorter than that. Mm-hmm. These things here, these can go on for decades without any trouble at all.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all your advice. Hopefully this will grow big and strong and outlive me.